I think I'm a special one.
What are we doing? What are we doing?
Hey guys, we're back for episode 40, episode 40 on the Half Turn podcast. Another milestone, making progress. Close to 50, close to 100.
Almost there.
We started off like pretty fast. Like we were banging them out like once a week, every other week. There's been a few where like we slowed down like one per month, one every 3 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
So we need to get the rhythm. We haven't found like the rhythm, but it's going all right. So as we always start off, we'll get into the soccer stuff, but what are you wearing first?
Let me just say I added a Haji Wright all touches video to my watch later.
No,
Like 3 seconds ago, I guess he had 2 goals.
I heard that, yes.
Rocking, not sure if I've worn it before. A Dortmund Pulisic jersey, 22 on the back. It's one of my 4 Pulisic jerseys that I have.
You have the black one.
I have a black one. I have a gray Dortmund.
Gray Dortmund's pretty tough.
I got USA number 10, and then Chelsea number 22.
Wow. What color is the Chelsea one? Blue?
It's like black, I think.
Oh, yeah. That one's tough, too.
Is it 22 or 10?
I think it's 10.
Oh,
I think
it
you
might
have
be 10. Then.
Yeah. That one's cool, though. Pulisic at Dortmund was different, man. That was the first, like he seemed like a world-class, like, prospect. Like at the time, Dortmund was still thought of as, like, one of the top, like, 7-8 clubs in the world. And it was like he was pushing through. And it's like, what could this guy be? He was, like, the first American we've seen, like, at that level in a while. Yeah. So there was just, like, so much, like, kind of mystery around
it was pre-tattoo sleeve Pulisic.
Yeah,
so
once the tattoo sleeves are just wearing them down, you know. But that one's tough. Puma brand. That's a cool jersey.
Yeah, are they still Puma?
I think so.
Maybe it means I should watch more Bundesliga.
You should. So I'm rocking I went to Stevenson University. So this is an old college jersey.
Right, that's where you went?
Yeah, that's where I went. So my freshman year, so I guess the year before I got there, they bought these jerseys. Then I wore this my freshman year and maybe a little bit my sophomore year. Basically, it's a Nike black long sleeve. Says Stevenson on the front, but it has this like green star, kind of like the old Juve kits where they were pink with the black star. So it's like a copy off of them. Yeah, apparently the way I understood it was like this jersey is like illegal in the NCAA. We had like multiple jerseys that were not allowed in the NCAA because like either the Nike logo was too big or like a certain design. Like, so who knows? But we were allowed to take these when we weren't allowed to use them anymore. So that's pretty cool. I mean, it's long sleeve. It's a little like flappy and whatever. Can't say I got too many wins in this jersey or maybe too many minutes or stats or anything, but it's actually really fresh. I kind of want to just like wear it, you know?
I do really like how college teams wear long sleeve jerseys sometimes. I think it's cool.
I never see college jerseys.
Some college teams have long sleeve jerseys. I think it's cool,
but
I don't know if it's legal in college, but I love collared jerseys. Collared.
Yeah. With the collar, we had one of those at Stevenson too, and apparently it was illegal. I think the logo of the whatever like off-brand it was like it was too big.
Yeah, I think collared jerseys. I think the reason why I like collared jerseys so much is I like old school jerseys.
Like classic.
The collared is like kind of old school.
Yeah, it's coming back. It's a touch of class.
Yeah, it's coming back.
So what are we talking about today? What are you thinking?
Good question.
So last episode was like it was a Premier League preview pretty much. We previewed some of the bigger teams in Europe and then most of the big teams in the Premier League and like how we thought the season was going to go. So the idea for this one was we'll touch on just that exactly, like the kind of where these teams are at, maybe some of the big teams, kind of what we've been up to. And then I have a few like kind of surprise questions for you if you're ready for it.
All right.
It obviously has to do with soccer, but like
now
outside of the pro game. Let's save it for later.
Okay.
So let's recap the Premier League. Where do you want to start? Top of the table is Arsenal on 12 points.
Yeah, they're perfect.
So yeah, I mean, we're not going to go into specific games, but I think just in general, Arsenal kind of are who we thought they were. Like everyone, me, you, Justin, were on this podcast a month ago saying Arsenal got better. They had a great transfer window. We talked that Jesus could probably score 15 goals. I think he has 2 or 3, few assists. We all love Saka. We love Martinelli. Saliba's come in and just been like a rock for them. And I mean, they've played some easy opponents. They've played Palace away was tough, but they haven't played any big teams yet. So, I mean, I've been impressed with them. Like, I like the way they play in terms of like, they play good soccer, but it's not really like, it's not exciting. It's actually kind of boring.
I think it's pretty exciting. The game yesterday, who did they play yesterday?
Fulham.
That game was a little boring.
I think the storylines and the like late heroics were exciting, but the actual soccer itself wasn't great.
Well, that's the same kind of deal with City sometimes. That's what people say, is that City are kind of boring to watch sometimes.
But City are so good at everything they do that like it makes it boring. Arsenal's not at that level. Arsenal's not even close to that level.
Are you sure?
Yes,
Can they take a step up this year? Like, are they currently taking that step up?
No, I think they've taken a step up from what they've been in the past. Like, they're a top 4 team, but they haven't beaten anybody. If they went to like, I don't know, when's their first, big game of the season? If they went to like Spurs and beat Spurs, I'd be like, okay, this is legit. Or like drew at Man United or something, but they haven't. They're beating up.
Is Arteta making players better, you think?
Yes. I don't know if it's Arteta, but like Saka is getting better. Odegaard is like world class at this point. He's been great so far. Yeah. The center backs, I mean, Ben White playing a little bit like hybrid right back, been pretty solid. To me, it's Partey's he started 3 of the 4. Xhaka has like, he kind of thought he's on the decline, getting older, and he's like still there as like a key like cog in the team. So that's actually been
I heard a crazy stat that Arteta's first game was against Bournemouth.
Mm-hmm.
And then last weekend they played Bournemouth. That was when Saliba had that really nice goal.
Yeah.
Cue the Saliba chant. But yeah, so the only 2 players that stuck around from that starting 11 from Arteta's first game, which I guess was December of 2019, were Xhaka and Saka.
Dude, Saka was in the team then?
Yeah.
Wow, I must have been a young buck.
Yeah.
Wow.
But Xhaka, dude, like nobody really thinks about him because he's been there for so long.
He's good though. He's been good. But I think he just goes off the rails sometimes.
He's just been patrolling that left side of center
the left half space, but kind of tucks in as a defensive mid, but like will push up the field, but like can cover for the left back if needed when like Zinchenko or Tierney tucks in. Like he does it all, man.
Yeah, I thought what they're doing with Zinchenko is pretty fascinating. There was one part of the game, it was against Bournemouth because I watched that game from start to finish. He was on the right side of center midfield. Like he was just floating, going all over the place. And he starts at left back. Obviously he didn't play the game against Fulham.
Yeah, he's hurt, right?
He was out. So
Tierney. But Tierney stepped in and did that role. And that's not even Tierney's strength. So I put up some XG stats. Arsenal are leading. What are they? They're expected points. They're in second to Manchester City. They 3.3 expected goals against, 8.63 expected goals for. So like they just taking care of business, right? But
City's
they're
up there with expected points.
They have 8.6 expected goals, 11 actual goals. So like that's going to regress at some point. And I think when they play the bigger teams, that'll dip down. But yes, Man City is 10.34 expected goals, 2.67 expected goals against. And they've given up 5 goals against. So like you would expect City to stop letting in these goals. Like they're not conceding expected goals. They're just conceding regular goals.
Yeah, the past 2 weeks they've been down.
Yeah, which is just random.
They played Newcastle this weekend or last weekend?
last weekend.
Last
They tied
weekend?
3-3.
Was it 3-0 at one point, or was it 2-0?
No, I
then
think
2-1,
I think
3-1.
I think it was 1-0, then 3-1 Newcastle. I'm not sure.
So I watch a lot of TIFO
Mhm.
football, which is check it out if you guys are into that stuff. Basically they'll do like 2 to 3 games a week in the Premier League and
Mhm.
break down, how did Ten Hag beat Liverpool? And
Mhm.
they'll be like, Ericsson did that, like, like tactics
Like
wise.
low level
And
tactics.
dude, the whole thing that they talk about is expected goals, expected assists, and how that relates to expected points. Like they did a video on what happened to Juventus,
Mhm.
and they just looking at those stats, Pirlo did actually really well compared to previous Juventus managers.
Yeah.
The Juventus managers just exceeded their expected points, and Juventus with Pirlo just got unlucky. It was what they were trying to say.
I guess. I mean, now we're talking about Juve.
I was just throwing that out
Like
there.
in the Juve type kit. Yeah. I do believe in this kind of stuff. They're like, all right, it's a 4-game sample size, but City conceding significantly more goals than their expected goals would tell you. City's probably going to go on a run of like 3 straight clean sheets, and we're going to think nothing of it. Yeah, like Tottenham's up there in expected goals. Expected goals again. So like going back to City, if we're just kind of looking at this season, I mean, the first game of the season, they went to West Ham, won 2-0. I think Holland had a goal, 2 goals. I'm not sure. And people were just flipping out the fact that their fullbacks were like so tucked in. It was the 2 center backs, Rodri, and then Cancelo and Walker were like tucked in as defensemen. People were flipping out. It's like, what do you expect inverted fullbacks to be? Like that's so easy.
First of all, Walker's been doing it for 3 or 4 years now.
Yeah, same with
Walker, that exact thing. It's just they put Cancelo more in the midfield, which can't blame him, dude. Cancelo's an attacker. He just happens to play left back and right back.
Yeah, and he's a footballer. He's like he just can do it all. And I think with someone like Holland, like you're gonna see times where they need to give Holland a certain amount of space. So maybe it's Mahrez hugging the touchline or Foden hugging the touchline. I think in that game it was Grealish.
Gaps for Holland to make those like little slip runs that he
does. And then it's De Bruyne coming back to find the ball. It opens up the central channel and the half space for Holland. And then in that game, I think Gundogan might have scored a goal, or Gundogan scored a few goals. And that's because he can like get up the field and he's really smart at making those late runs as well. But like you go on Twitter and everyone has like a tactical like thread on Twitter. Like, what are the inverted fullbacks? Like, I thought we covered this like 6 years ago.
I don't know if Twitter does that, but they've been pushing the tactical threads on there recently.
Yeah. Every time I go on, it's like a new tactical thread.
I just probably have like 10 of them in my bookmarks.
None of them are that like interesting either. It's not like you don't really learn much. Like,
yeah, they just kind of tell you where players are.
Yeah, not that it's not like a snob, but like it's nothing like groundbreaking.
You're a snob, bro.
I am a snob. Anything else with City? I mean, like that's just kind of what I expect them to be. Like City are so good that they'll have a bad game and still find a way to get points, but like also still dominate. That's just like what it is. Like in the flow of a season, they're going to be down 2-0 at halftime, but like just go bet on them because they're going to win the game. Staying with the theme of big teams, we'll talk about Liverpool's start. I mean, Liverpool, like, so they drew away to Fulham the first game, and like to be honest, Fulham's pretty good. They're starting Anthony Robinson at left back, starting American Tim Ream at center back. Mitrovic had, I think, one of the 2 goals. Liverpool, like we said on this podcast, they were going to take a step back because I think Sadio Mane was getting a little bit undervalued. And the fact that they're trying to bring Nunez along and then like an aging Firmino and like we're not really sure.
Maybe that clip got pushed in the Jurgen Klopp's For You page.
Yeah.
Before this Bournemouth game. Because they destroyed Bournemouth.
Oh yeah, but like that was they were due for that. But also it was Firmino was starting and Diaz was on the left.
It was just a joke.
Yeah, it wasn't that funny of a joke. But like the point was like that was like vintage Liverpool. And I've had injuries in the midfield. So like no Thiago. Did Fabinho play against this past week?
Yeah.
So like I'm not sure. But they've had injuries in the midfield, which has kind of been their strength. Like that midfield can just do their job so well. that it lets the front three like make runs in behind and stuff. And like when you throw Nunez in there, like Nunez is he's not a good like footballer. He can make great runs to the front post and like flick things on and like maybe score a header or whatever. And he's a presence. He's a good center forward. He's a terrible footballer. And this whole time they've been playing with good footballers in that spot. Firmino, Diaz, Mane. I don't know who else they've played in that spot. But I think it's going to take Salah time. Yeah, Jota's been hurt. It's going to take Salah time to adjust because like you saw, I forget which game it was. He got an assist or something. And what it is, he gets down the line, he kind of cuts it back, does like a 1-2, and then he's in behind Mo Salah. So like he's not doing that with Nunez. Nunez isn't good enough for that. It's not like the type of player he is. So like, yeah, I don't think Liverpool's going to be as good. And then there's the funny arguments about like, is Trent good? Like, can he defend? And like, which is just kind of good banter to me.
If he was faster, nobody would say anything because he would just catch up to people, slow him down. But since he's kind of like not as fast as wingers that he's going against, people think that Trent sucks at defense.
Yeah, he's got a hard job. They ask him to do a lot. Like he's got to get way up the field. He's like they're relying on him for like every like good service into the box.
Yeah.
So it's a hard job. If you ever played fullback on a team where like you think you're going to get the ball higher up, you're just sprinting up the field. And if you lose it in transition, all of that space is behind you. So everyone's going to think you're a bad defender. But it's not really your fault.
Yeah. People know listening that I listen to a lot of ESPN FC. And they were saying, they asked Stevie Nicol, who former Liverpool player. I think he was really good for them back in the day. Asked him, should they switch to a 3-4-3?
Gosh, that'd be stupid.
And he was like, no, why would you switch to a 3-4-3 because of one player?
Well, like to get the most out of your one player, like it's not a bad idea. I just think Liverpool are playing this certain way and can succeed in it. I mean, they kind of do anyway at times with Fabinho kind of dropping in, and their other two center mids typically aren't further up the field. They're like behind that midfield line, letting Robertson and Trent kind of go with some extra cover there.
Well, it's Henderson, the guy who helps out on the right-hand side. Who covers some of that space to help Trent get up the field more.
Yeah, they're all doing it. They all like take their turns. Right. Yeah, I don't know. Liverpool aren't that fascinating to me. They'll figure it out. I think Liverpool are going to finish third or fourth, like a very boring third or fourth.
Very boring. People consider them the most exciting team in the world.
I don't know, man. I know.
You can't really. I guess you can say that because it's your opinion. But things happen so quickly. Like just Monday, they lost to Manchester United last Monday, and people are like, "Oh, dude,
Klopp's out." Yeah,
it's Jurgen Klopp's down year.
And then
they beat a team 9-0, and then people are like, "Oh, Liverpool are back." Like things happen so quickly.
Who else? You want to talk about Man United a little bit?
Sure.
So, I
guess
it's kind of old news to say like they were a joke. They lost to Brentford and then Brighton and then Brentford, and then they grind out a gutsy win against Liverpool, and then they just beat Southampton. So they haven't had one convincing performance yet. I think they just really high work rate, really well organized against Liverpool. Against Southampton, they were the better team, but they weren't it wasn't anything special. It was a 1-0. Bruno had a goal. I still don't, and they just bought Casemiro, so that team is still kind of a mess. I mean, when they were losing, I was like, "Oh, it's a rough day for my Scott McTominay takes." And then he goes and has a great game against Liverpool, great game against Southampton, and they're finding him is that midfield partnership there with Eriksen.
Did he start against Liverpool?
Yes, and he was good against Liverpool.
He got benched the game against Brentford, I think.
Yeah, Brentford was 4-0.
Yeah. He got benched that game.
Well, yeah, they're down 4-0 at half.
Well,
so the first game they rolled out Eriksen as a false nine, and it's that was never going to work. Not really sure why they did that. Then Eriksen has been dropping further back, so it's been McTominay and Eriksen. So I'm guessing it's going to be Casemiro and Eriksen, and then McTominay is like cover for that spot. Been rolling with like Martial, Rashford. I think Rashford is great. Like I was like a really big Rashford guy a couple of years ago when they finished second. So it's easy to like to enjoy their players when they're doing well. So when they're doing poorly, the whole team, people can, get on me and say, oh, your McTominay take and your Rashford take are bad. They're not good anymore. But the whole team is. Like, there's not one player overperforming when the whole team is bad. Then when the team starts doing better, those guys look good. So I still think Rashford has like some top qualities.
Yeah.
So I think that's like kind of the future with Ronaldo coming off the bench for like 20 minutes every game.
Yeah, it's a completely different debate, the Ronaldo thing. But yeah, I was telling him that people expect like a certain level from Manchester United, like when they were playing bad.
Mm-hmm.
People expect like a certain level from Manchester United, but really, if you think about it, like they lost to Brentford. So like Thomas Frank is getting his players to play to the ability of the players. Ten Hag is trying to get his players to play above the ability that his players can play. Like his team really is not that good.
So you're saying
people expect that this guy is just going to take up like that within the first couple of games of the season. What did he sign? A 3-year contract?
Yeah.
Something like
I guess so. I'm not sure how long it was.
The amount of people overreacting on what Manchester United do.
It's Manchester United, though.
Yeah, I know, but sometimes like maybe because soccer is like 1 or 2 games a week.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of dead time. Like people overreact like crazy with managers.
Yeah, but you're saying that like United should just play to what their players can do. So if that's kind of like Ole did a little bit, where like they just defended well, could hit teams on the counter with like Martial, Sancho, Rashford, like kind of speedy guys like that are good in the counter, rather than Ten Hag trying to like build up like super methodically and all that.
They're not gonna have the same formations or principles that the top teams are gonna have. Why can't they just play with the players that they have to try and win games?
I mean, he might be figuring that out, but he might think that he has the top team.
Yeah, but for example, he's trying to play out of the back with De Gea. This is an obvious example. And De Gea cannot, is just not good enough to play out of the back.
Okay.
He's messed up multiple times before.
Well, I think they were trying to get rid of De Gea for like years now.
Okay, but why is he trying to do that?
Well, because just because a goal, you don't want to completely change your whole team, your whole philosophy, just because one goalie. Like just because if De Gea is 80% competent, that you're missing that 20% competency with his feet. But you can't just abandon all of what you do because he's just not quite there.
He's not quite there. Why are you trying to play out of the back like that? From the goalie, not even play out of the back with your center backs. With the goalie.
It's easier to find.
It costs them a game.
One game though, that system could get to win them.
There's things you can build up to, but you don't do it off the bat. That's just what I'm trying to say.
I wouldn't have done anything different if I was personnel choices, whatever. But the theory of coming in and implementing your style, even if it means you lose some games, it's more important to be true to that style rather than just concede. Now, as the season goes on, you might see them adjust, against Liverpool.
And if you're a true Manchester United fan, why are you literally pressuring the team to need results right now?
Yeah, that's what
he's 3-year contract. I could have just made that up. I have no idea how long he's at Manchester United for. But
I just think I get what you're saying. The most United fans or most of the vocal United fans are this is ridiculous. What does this club become? But if you didn't say that after every loss that Ole had or that Jose Mourinho had or whatever, maybe somebody could build something longer term. Or maybe the Glazers or somebody would have cut Ole or Jose Mourinho or Van Gaal or whatever earlier to get somebody that could learn as they go and build something more sustainable. But because it's so results driven in the short term,
it's insanely results driven.
They could have. They weren't even good these past couple of years, right? They finished second, 2 years ago, whatever. But if you took these years where they were never going to contend for the title, they were never going to contend for the Champions League, the title. if you took those years and like really rebuilt the squad, you would have like had better results than what they do now.
Yeah. And that's on Manchester United fans, mostly England, like Phil Neville. Is it Phil or Gary? The pundit.
I think is Phil the coach.
F,
Gary's
right.
Gary's the pundit.
All right, then Gary.
Yeah,
I like Gary, but
he hasn't been
dude,
posting podcasts.
after every Manchester United loss, it's a rant. Like, dude, chill out.
Because like the players don't respect the club and the Glazers, they don't dump the money and all that stuff.
And people call for Manchester United. I mean, we're saying this after they have 2 wins, but like these are all thoughts from the past couple of weeks.
Yeah,
People are like, dude, we just want someone who wants to go out there and fight for the club. Well, you have a manager who comes in who's trying to implement like his style, and it might be different. You're really concerned about like what that does, because if he doesn't like you, signed a 3-year deal. Who knows if that's right? If he doesn't like you, you could be sent away and make way less money. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so you're gonna have to play his style.
You're gonna have to play and that's what's going on in your head. Not that I have to run through every challenge. I mean, like, yes, you should, but
it is a 3-year deal. Ben Hug.
That's what I thought. So
that's funny. Yeah, let's look at Man United's stats. 5.68 XG, 6 XG against. I mean, yeah, it's skewed in there, but yeah. So who else do you want to talk about a little bit? I mean, Brighton's been surprising. I'm always on here talking about Graham Potter. I think he's class. Leeds, what do you think about Leeds?
I think they're exciting. The game against Chelsea,
that was awesome.
The intensity at which they press is like actually like sick. NBC Sports posted like a tactical breakdown of Aaronson's goal. I mean, like, what can you tactically break down from that play? Like, he just kind of.
It's way more than just running at him. He gets in the passing lane of the closest guy, and everybody else on Leeds squeezes with Aaronson. So, like, if Mendy thinks he has an easy out to the right, and then he sees someone squeezing, like that split second makes Mendy freeze up a little bit. Yeah. Eriksen finishing the press. Jesse Marsh talks about like finishing the tackle. I mean, Leeds like.
But that real quick, back to what I was saying about that clip that they posted. I think it was Tim Howard and Robbie Earl, and Robbie Earl pointed out Dan James on that play forced the back pass because of his reaction. I think it was Aaronson who tried playing a ball like a square ball, like
got taken out.
Yeah, and Dan James, like instead of like on like that, he pressed him and like he was just.
Dan James is fast.
Yeah, Dan James.
He's good, man. Like Dan James, man. Right. Leeds is like, are they good at soccer? Not really, but like they just like fly around the field, and it's like.
Wait, how they do this weekend?
They lost 1-0
to
Brighton.
Oh, Brighton.
Yeah, okay. I didn't get to watch it, but I watched the highlights. Yeah, so that was our first loss. I think they have a draw, 2 wins. And a loss. So, I mean, they're doing well. Like, the team isn't good enough. And, like, they're starting Dan James, Jack Harrison. Like, Rodrigo is playing forward, and really he's probably, like, more suited to play, like, as a winger or second forward. Playing Tyler Adams getting minutes. Like, they're our team. Like, that's my team.
Like
no, he's good for what they do. He's very smart in his pressing. Like, it really fits. And, like, I'm glad that Jesse Marsh is, like, doing well because I think he got the short end of the stick at Leipzig.
Yeah, I've been on a kick of watching a lot of Jesse Marsh. Like he had webinars.
Oh yeah, he has a bunch of those.
Great stuff.
He just like the way in which a lot of like top coaches communicate is such like it's the difference between a lot of times like people who know soccer and like top coaches. Like the top coaches can break things down into simple like phrases, principles, like all that, and like allow their players to know it. And then it just becomes like second nature and get their team.
I wish I had it in front of me. I don't want to slow down the podcast, but he uses this
the phrase,
the thing called SARD.
Yeah,
look up SARD Jesse Marsh.
I got you. I've seen it before. Yes.
The S means sprinting.
Yeah,
which means you don't jog to press. You like sprint to press. Look it up here.
Dude. No, I can't find it. I'd have to watch the video.
All right. Well, maybe we'll talk about it another time.
Oh, wait, hold on. I might have found it. He talks about finishing the tackle or something.
Well, in the meantime,
It's in here somewhere. I just can't search for the word.
in the meantime, we are sponsored by Aquafina.
Not sponsored by Arteta. We need a sponsor the podcast. No, I can't
All right,
find
it's
it.
whatever. We'll talk about it another time. But yeah, it uses this. What do you call those acronyms?
Yeah. Well, it's one letter and then another letter.
Yeah.
For the first.
SARD. Then the A, the R, and the D are all German, and that's how he likes his teams to press. But his teams press by just going. You know, like we played in a team once where like we pressed, but you wanted to know like what was behind you first.
Mm-hmm.
Jesse Marsh is different. He doesn't
Is
care.
this blowing your mind or something? You never heard this before?
Well, it's just different, you know.
I mean, like Jesse Marsh.
Like, I
like,
love Jesse Marsh, but
some of his presentations have been out for like 2 or 3 years.
yeah, I know.
And like that style has been around for like 4 or 5. Like,
Cool, man. You watched them when they came out. Sick.
no, I mean, like, yeah, it's different than like, I think at other levels, like that is the norm. Like if you're like a youth player growing up in Germany, like you might know that as the norm. If you're just here, like you just hear that on like a YouTube video and like, oh, that's cool. But like if you grew up in that environment where like that's all you did, like it's second nature to just press and run through the tackle and the next guy's stepping with you and everybody's moving forward. And it's not just one guy pressing, it's like the whole team. Who else is there to talk about? Tottenham. It's like I
don't have much to say about Tottenham or Chelsea, really.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, so I would have said Tottenham. I think Tottenham's going to finish second. I've been like kind of disappointed with their performances, to be honest. They got outplayed by Chelsea. I mean, like they beat who they just beat today. I just watched the game.
They beat Nottingham Forest.
Nottingham Forest, who are actually pretty decent. But they just sit and defend so much, dude. It's like they're good. They're going to beat teams. They have like Kane, Kulusevski, Son. Like they have more attacking talent. But man, they just defend. It's a 5-4-1. And it's so just like patient. Like, yeah, teams can't break it down. Like that's a way to win games. But I would have liked them to be more like on the forefront. They just want teams to like, they just want to play out of the back, suck teams in, and then go. They either create counterattacks from defending, winning the ball and going, or just sucking teams in to like play around them and through them and go. And if a team sits and defends like in like a deeper block, then like they're not as effective. But I still think Tottenham's going to finish second. But the signings I don't think have made much of an impact really. I loved their transfer window. Lenglet's never going to play. I mean, Perisic plays, but like he's decent. He's not like great. DJ Spence made his debut today. He hasn't really done much. Richarlison subs in every game for like 25 minutes and is like decent. Like nothing.
Yeah. I mean, like injuries will come. Basuma is in there. I like
subs
Basuma.
in every game. Yeah.
I don't really have much thoughts on Tottenham.
There isn't much to think about Tottenham. Like anything you think about Tottenham, like hasn't changed this season. Chelsea.
What do you make of the handshake between Conte and Tuchel?
Yeah, it's. So it was Tuchel saying, "Look me in the eyes," right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like it was just like them being hypebeasts. I think
Tuchel
could have called him out in the media and not done that on the field. And it's ridiculous that Tuchel was allowed to coach the next game against Leeds. But it was funny because the first goal that Aronson scored, Marsh like ran like down the sideline and did like the Tuchel like celebration. Because when Chelsea scored to make it 2-1 against Tottenham, Tuchel like sprinted across in front of Conte.
That was after their first argument.
Yeah, like that means you're starting the argument, and then you want to be the tough guy and say, "Look me in the eyes."
Well, both of those managers are like
fired
into
it. Yeah,
Conte's people
like
say animated or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But they like Conte did that on purpose, and then Tuchel probably thought about it and also did that same thing on purpose. You know, like they're trying to be like an extension of the players on the field.
What did Conte do on purpose? What do you mean? Not look at him.
Didn't he start the argument after the VAR call?
Conte went after one of the goals and like started celebrating, and it looked like he was celebrating in Tuchel's face. But Tuchel just ran over to the fourth ref to start complaining. So to me, it was like Conte was celebrating, but Tuchel was complaining to the fourth ref but they end up just looking at each other because the fourth ref was right there.
But Conte was arguing with Tuchel. I think Conte got into it,
After that, but Conte was just celebrating himself.
In the end, dude, Conte got the most out of like his team, right?
They got a point away at Chelsea.
Yeah, so he got his team back in the game.
Yeah. I mean, it could have been like for the purpose of the game. I don't know.
Anyway.
But Chelsea have been, to me, they look garbage this season. Like they play like okay stuff sometimes. Like Cucurella, I think is great. Like I still love that guy. Koulibaly like had a shocker against Leeds. Obviously got a red card that game, so he didn't play today or whatever this weekend. Like the front three does nothing. Like I love Sterling. He finally has 2 goals. The only guy doing anything in that front three. Havertz has nothing this season. Mount has nothing this season. They played Conor Gallagher this weekend in like more of like a midfield 3. Got 2 yellows in the span of like 30 minutes.
Yeah.
To me, like this team just makes me mad because it's like you never give Pulisic a run of games, man. Like, and then they're gonna go try and buy like Anthony Gordon or whoever. It's like you're just letting this dude rot on your bench. It's like I'm not trying to watch.
There's been 4 games. Relax.
No, I'm not going to relax. Chelsea might be my least favorite team.
2 games in the season, bro. Pulisic needs a run of games.
Yeah, and they haven't given to him yet.
He's not. He is straight up just not as good as Sterling or
no,
or Mount.
Not many people are as good as Sterling because Sterling's like a top 10, 15 player in the world. Maybe he's not as good as Mount, but Mount isn't producing. Same with Havertz. So figure it out, Chelsea. Like you're not scoring goals, but yet you're gonna Pulisic still on the bench. And then, dude, if they didn't win that Champions League final, like Tuchel would be on the hot seat. Like, yeah, they finished like 3rd those couple of years. So he's finished top 4 in all his seasons. Good for you. But like he hasn't accomplished anything. He hasn't gotten Chelsea to the City or Liverpool level. He's won the Champions League because Pulisic got them there.
Can't imagine having a manager that can't get your team to the City or Liverpool level.
That's what he's there for, right? They've spent a crap ton of money. And the transfer business too. Like what does he do? Like letting Rudiger leave on a free and then like reloading and spending a ton of money on like Koulibaly and just like I don't know. I could look like an idiot when like they kind of get it all figured out. And like I know like there was some shakeup in the front office, but I just don't like the way that team plays right now. Maybe I was just such a fan of the way they played before in their organization, but I don't know, man. I think the Champions League title in 2021 was more of just they just won their series of aggregate games, which are more random than the season long.
Okay.
But yeah, so what do you think about? So there's rumors that Anthony Gordon is going from Everton to Chelsea for like 60 million, which seems absurd. Is he that good?
He's good. He's good.
60 million good?
I was telling you, I mean, maybe he's not 60 million good, but think about it. The dude comes from the academy. He's 21, by the way. Comes from the academy. Starts to break out. There's certain players, Aronson is the number 1 person that comes to mind, where they jump levels and they play to that level. And they start to play good. And now if they were to jump another level, Aronson did, starts to play good again. Like some players like start to not peak, but
You mean like top out at their current level?
no. Some players just keep rising as they go up levels.
Do you think he needs to go up a level?
I'm saying like the reason why people want to spend that, or Chelsea want to spend that much money, is because they think he can go up and probably another level because he's showing that he's Everton's best player right now.
I guess. I mean, it's not saying much.
Uh-huh.
He was good today, but yeah, Everton are going down. That's kind of my analysis there.
I as an Everton fan, don't let him go because he's our best player. Mm-hmm. We needed him to stay up. And 2, what are you going to do with that money? It's too late to spend that money.
Yeah. Well, they brought in a bunch of guys like this off season.
Like a decent amount of guys, but then it all goes. I heard someone say like, yeah, let Gordon go now and reset the attack. Like reset the attack
with McNeil
with
and
what?
Damari
With
Gray, yeah, and no transfer window.
the new age Everton attack. Like what?
Who are you gonna buy? It's just like think of the most random number 9 you can, and like Everton will buy him.
Bashuai.
He's good. I think Pulisic to Everton.
Yeah, so Everton signed Neil Maupay. So
Is he good?
He's okay. He scored a goal for Brighton before.
Yeah. That's because he's playing for Graham Potter. Now he's playing for Potter's up here and Lampard's like down here.
I don't disagree with you.
All right. Is there any other like interesting things from the Premier League? Like this is something I think we'll kind of touch on the storylines and whatever, I guess, as the season goes on. There's midweek games.
You want to hit me with those questions, and then I can give my thoughts on. I don't think I have yet on the podcast. Give my thoughts on them.
Hold on. What was I? Talk about any other big teams? Like the only like real observation from other leagues around is like PSG are legit. Like they just look like the one game Mbappe was like moaning about not getting the ball and he didn't score. And then the very next game he scores 8 seconds in off the kickoff play. Like that team is just roaring. Like whoever their new manager is, Galatasaray, how do you say it?
Definitely not Galatasaray.
It's Galter, right?
I'm not even gonna try to pronounce
No,
it.
neither.
I've heard it, and it's not Galatasaray.
Some of these guys I just don't know how to pronounce. Like if you don't like actively listen for how to pronounce it and you try to like read it, it just doesn't work out. But they play good soccer, and like their center mids too. My boy Vitinha is getting some run, so that's cool. Good transfer window for my guys, I'll tell you. You maybe like something quick on MLS. Like we've been watching the Union, and like kind of well, first new addition to the studio is this Union Join or Die pennant. Someone that I coach gave it to me as like a gift. They went to open practice and they got it signed by pretty much everyone on the team. I think there's like 3 or 4 guys missing, but pretty cool. So I figured we'll put it in here. You could lean back now. We got the audience. I mean, for the most part, like you could sit normal and still see it. It kind of blends into the wall too. But yeah, dude, like they beat Colorado 6-0 last night. They beat DC United 6-0. They beat DC United 7-0. They beat Houston 6-0. The way they play just like can really just destroy these bad teams. I just hope it translates over to like good teams and like in the playoffs. Because like a home Eastern Conference game or a home MLS Cup game would just be electric. Like I'm shooting, like I want MLS Cup, man. I don't want just like playoffs. Like LAFC is not going to win MLS Cup. They're just not. Like we're going to host MLS Cup. We need that 1 seed. I'm hoping LAFC slip up and we get the Supporters Shield too.
That's Bale's LAFC though.
Yeah, Bale subs in for like 20 minutes a game, dude. I don't know. I just think like every time I watch the Union, I like try to break down like and really like understand like why the Union are so good and like what their formation does and stuff. And it just kind of blows my mind every time that they're that good and that dominant.
I think they shut down attacks, like other teams' attacks.
Oh yeah, they're great at like first of all like Glesnes and Elliott are so good at just defending, and like they just know like where to be, how to recover for each other, like how to start attacks too. They're just well coached. Yeah, I don't know. And it's exciting, like someone like Jack McGlenn, homegrown coming through. I texted you the one night and I was like, Jack McGlenn's going to get sold for like 20+ million at some point. Yeah, that's my take on the Union these past few months. Yeah. What time is it? So last like kind of, topic I had for this podcast was, so you like you've gotten a little bit into coaching and you took your grassroots courses past those.
Yeah.
So you finished so for those who don't know, in US soccer, when you go to get your license, you do grassroots courses. So they break down by the game format. So 11v11, 9v9, 7v7, 4v4. And then when you complete a certain amount of those, you could take the D license and then there's a C license and all that. And it keeps going. So what do you think of the grassroots courses in general and like the landscape of youth soccer from someone who like you don't know it. You've never coached in it. Like, what do you think? Like, because in these courses they're talking about play, practice, play, and like all of that kind of stuff. What are your thoughts?
Okay, so I think with the like I did the 7v7 online and the 9v9 and the 11v11 in person.
Mm-hmm.
So they kind of want like to give us like a structure of how to set up a session.
Mm-hmm.
I guess that's like the main focus of what you're trying to learn there.
Yeah.
And so I think that US soccer, I don't know if they did much research like into this, because they kind of just look at other countries and think, why are other countries better than the US? And they probably just assume that one of the reasons is that they play more, and they play more like just playing.
Okay.
Free play. As you said before.
So
I think what they do is they just say, do the play, practice, play method to resemble, is that a word?
Like, yeah, resemble what though?
Resemble what they do in other countries, with just having them play, you know?
Like,
And they tell the coach, let me finish.
Okay.
Because you're getting antsy over there. Like,
No, I'm not getting antsy. I'm just listening, but like you kind of go ahead.
They tell the coaches to like, don't know coaching points at some points. Like the final play thing, they don't want the coaches saying anything. Or is that the first play? The first play. Yeah. They don't want the coaches saying anything. It's like, what is the coach there to just moderate, you know?
So what do you think the coaches should be doing? Like, how would you make it better? Like, do the coaches need to do more?
I'm not saying what they're doing is bad. That's just what I think. That's how they structured the coaching courses.
Okay.
And teach the people.
And you would like there to be more emphasis on coaching.
Yeah. Well, when I went, my instructors, hope they're not listening, were like, we would ask questions, they would answer one, and then we'd ask another questions, and like they wanted us to be so by the book.
Yeah.
Like very by the book.
I mean, like my experience with that is like it's the play, practice, play for me is a good thing, because for the most part, 90% of what you see on a youth soccer field is garbage, right? So like if you just, the more games you put these players in, the better off they'll be. I think the initial like play phase where it's like you just set up 2-3 fields and let them go, like that's their chance to just kind of run around and like do things, and like maybe they'll try something new. I just like the second play phase is more like phase of play, so like building out of the back or something, and the third is like a little bit more structured. I don't mind that it's structured that way. I think my biggest complaint is that like the game is too big at these formats, and I look at all of like you said, like, oh, the US just must have just looked at a bunch of different countries and picked on what they've done, but really all of the other countries are going smaller and smaller. We talked about Belgium all the time, how they implemented this 2v2 up until they're like U10 or U11. And like you look at, I sent you a post one time of the top 10 teenagers in world soccer. 5 of them are Belgian. And like, there's no coincidence there. They just play more. Germany is going to this like 5v5 model where they just have a bunch of local teams come out. They play a bunch of 5v5 games, and the games are on to 2 goals. So you could score in 2 goals. You have to defend 2 goals. So yeah, you're not scoring in one central goal, but you have to like maneuver the ball. And if one goal's blocked, you go to the other one. You have to defend. There's more movement too, so the kids are more active. And then like you move up fields. So if you win a game, you move up to a higher level field. If you lose a game, you move down, and you don't have to travel. It's like a big like soccer fest. So you could just go. You get 3 or 4 competitive games. You can work on your skills. You get a variety of competition. And then in England, I was listening to a podcast with a guy Pete Sturgis, who like he's like really well known in the English FA for just like youth coaching, and he was saying they're trying to extend the foundation phase years. So like from 5 to 10, trying to make like 5 to 11, 5 to 12. So like more years for these kids to be less refined in the academy setup and like prioritizing wins, and more years to just focus on them and the ball, having fun, being active. playing in smaller numbers. Like it gives them a framework to say, we need to play 2v2s and 5v5s and that kind of stuff. And like US soccer, like, although it's done well to say, hey, play, practice, play, more playing, less line drills and cones and all that stuff, it still isn't really getting to the root cause of like, these guys need to play in smaller numbers. So like, not that I don't think the play, practice, play is the anti, like it's a step in the right direction, but US soccer as a whole isn't doing anything to help promote that either, because there's still these hyper competitive tournaments on the weekends and these like coaches that apparently have taken these classes because they're on the sidelines that definitely aren't doing that, because you roll up to a game and they're just standing back and forth passing to each other, or they're in lines, or they're doing something like that. So like, you know, I could kind of go on for days about this. What do you?
Two things. I think U.S. soccer is like soccer coaching, like youth soccer coaching, is like catch up. Like you're just trying to catch up to the other countries, you know?
Okay. Yeah, I guess.
Because other countries produce the best players.
Yeah, yeah.
The top European countries, top South American countries. But they do, like, for example, like in soccer, you don't really want to do like stationary drills. Basketball, they do that all the time, and they produce the best players come from America.
Well, if
you know what I'm trying to say, like they're not, when you're coaching youth basketball or youth football or whatever, you're not competing against anybody.
Yeah.
But now youth soccer, you're competing against other countries because you're trying to catch up to it.
Well,
so that's all I'm just trying to say.
So this
no
is where I think basketball and football development is like, you know, like archaic. Like it moves at such a slow speed because there's not as many countries competing to be the best country. But when you talk about like stationary stuff like basketball, we're the best in basketball because we're, you know, I'm not a basketball expert here, but we just have more people playing. There's more inner cities, there's more pickup, there's more gyms in general. It's part of the culture. But then you see all of these skilled players coming over, like Luka Doncic is, you know, 6'8", right? But like he's just more skilled than everybody else. He's slow. He's not even that athletic, but he's more skilled. Same with like all of these other players that are coming over. And like you see that in, you know, I think football eventually will catch up too when there's like pockets of skilled players. But look at the talent boom in the NFL when they've implemented this 7-on-7 rule, mostly because of head injuries. So like you're developing these kids like skill players because they could run routes and catch footballs rather than having to practice lining up and running set plays and like holding penalties and whatever. They're just playing. And then when they're old enough and mature enough to fit into that system, it's easier to fit that into the system.
Yeah.
So why line up, you know, 9, 11-year-olds to play U11 soccer when you could be playing 5v5s and 4v4s more often and develop those skills? And then when they're 15 years old and they're ready for a more competitive environment, then you start getting into the tactics of it and that kind of stuff. And then that environment just breeds like more skillful players. They have hundreds times more actions to beat a defender, to defend somebody, to try a 1-2, to combine with somebody else. Yeah, go ahead.
I was just saying, like my last point was I coached a little over a month ago. They were U8, a week-long camp. I was filling in for another coach, and this is their first year going. Was that 77, 99?
77.
77 because they were 4v4, I guess, before.
Yeah,
and I like they had no idea like where to be on the field because they're usually told where to go, like yelled at during the game.
Oh, so you're saying like they were like controlled by the parents, not because like they didn't know the game. It was because like people just kept telling them what to do.
Yeah, and when we talked about this before, is that there's so much going on when you add 6 new players into the game.
Yeah, and now 4v4 to 77 is a lot. Now like the jumps to like 77 and 99, like it's too big. And like
imagine if me and you went at our age went from 11v11 soccer to 14v14 soccer, and the fields got bigger.
Yeah. Now there's still a
like
point
25% bigger. We'd be like, what the heck?
The games have to get bigger at some point,
what
right?
What formation would you play?
14v14.
Yeah.
I play like a 3-4-3. 4, 8, 11, 14. Yeah, no, without a goalie. 3-4-3-2. Yeah, 2 wing backs on each side. But like, there's going to be a game where a point where the game has to get bigger. But if you like if you take the youngest players, like the more like relationship that they have with the ball at younger ages, it's like those are the learning years, like by all of the science and like all of the, and the guy Pete Sturgis from England, he was talking about how like the first 3 to 4 years a kid is playing soccer should just be celebrating the fact that they chose to do soccer and to like celebrate the fact that they're like out here having fun, like with their friends. So like, if you could just keep the game like really small and like not make it too big. And like the fact that you have like games where like all of the parents come, they just plop a chair down on the sideline and like, it just seems like artificial to me. And like, I was talking with some other people the other day and like, we're producing more and more good players. I'm still going to root for all the Americans and all that stuff. But like, we're doing it on accident. We're just doing it because we have some pro clubs, some pro club academies, some good players here, a growing soccer culture, right? People are watching soccer like on the weekends, they have local teams to support, but it's not like authentic and we're doing it correct the whole time. Like, we're getting a lot of stuff wrong. Like, yeah, it's probably never going to be perfect, but like, we're just, the system is, I don't want to keep like talking about the system being broken, but like I do feel like I have some good ideas around this as well. But yeah, it was interesting to hear like your perspective on the grassroots course. My biggest complaint with that course, like, I don't think that's a bad thing. I just think like it's clearly not getting to the coaches level because coaches are still telling kids exactly what to do on the field. They're telling you exactly where to go. They're like joysticking, like they say. Kids are still booting it up the field rather than trying to dribble. They're still trying to preach like tiki-taka passing at like 7 years old when it's proven that the kid needs to be with the ball and their relationship with the ball. There's plenty of coaches out there, paid coaches, that aren't doing play, practice, play, or game-based activities. They're just like doing like passing patterns that you would do with like a 15-year-old team, like a high school or college team with like 8-year-olds, which isn't what you should be doing. So like, that's my problem, is like, how can we be qualifying these new like set of coaches and like coaches still slipping through the cracks? No, I don't think you need to be like the best coach at the youth level, right? You got to just set the kids up to like do what they should be doing, to just like play and do, I also get like kind of mad when people like joke about like the skill level needed to coach youth teams. So I think if we had better coaches at the youth level, we wouldn't need the best coaches to be at the 15, 16, 17 college level. When people are just like, oh, like that's anyone can coach 9-year-olds. Like, yeah, anyone could. They might not be good at it. They might stop a player's potential by 15% by not like, sticking him at defense every single time he's out on the field, or only letting him play forward, or, all this kind of stuff. And those are things that I get what U.S. Soccer is doing with the coaching courses, where they're not trying to tell us how to coach. They're trying to tell us like how to structure that. But at some point they need to be like, look, we need to prioritize. If we want to be the soccer country we should be, from ages like the foundation phase, ages 5 to 11, we should only be focused on dribbling, skill moves, combining with teammates, having fun. But like, then you have even some of the biggest clubs who have great youth teams are just set up a box of cones and you do ball mastery. Like, English academies do a bunch of ball mastery. I listen to a lot of podcasts and interviews with those guys, but those are also like academy level players that are like serious about soccer, and it gets kind of crazy there when these are like grassroots players, which pretty much everywhere in America is grassroots unless you're at like an MLS academy. Everything else should be grassroots. Nobody's going to want to sit there and do ball mastery drills. Then the only players getting better are the ones that are like advanced psychologically enough at the age of 10 to pick up on that kind of stuff. You know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah. Before you just keep ranting, I'll stop you there.
That's the end of what I want to say, because I feel like that's all that relates to the coaching course.
My last thought on it is nothing to do with how they taught you, but how it's just set up is poor.
Jesus.
The website stinks.
all the instructors.
The website's awful. I got a notification saying I had a question about the course time, which was not up on the what do they call that? The learning center or whatever. And I emailed someone, never emailed me back. Followed up with them a week later, never emailed me back. Okay, so what are they there for? You know?
Yeah.
You learn the same exact thing in the 11v11, 9v9. So I waste 3 hours learning the same thing.
And I think it was like $75 each, right?
Yes, learning the same exact thing. It's just they just want money.
Well, like
and I submitted my assignment, came back and said like something like didn't work. 2 weeks after I submitted it, so I emailed someone. I said I submitted it. I forget exactly what happened. They're like, "Oh, you're right. Then something must have messed up." It's just awful experience using the U.S. Soccer Learning Center.
So even the instructors say like the LC, as they call it, the learning center, isn't like efficient. That's another thing too. I obviously have no idea how they do it in other countries or the UEFA licenses or whatever, but like I also think that there's not enough resources getting poured into coach education for like, it's great that we're educating the mid-tier like coaches that want to be like college pro level type coaches, but those guys will get smart and learn anyway. Like there'll be chances for those guys to get licensed, which is a good thing. There shouldn't be gatekeeping at coaching license level, but like we need an easier transition to get coaches like the best education possible to help them coach. I feel like I didn't learn enough doing that. And here's another rant too that might like, so there's a lot of talk about like the women's national team and how they're getting like so much money and like equal pay and all this stuff. And then there was like I saw like a few like articles about like what US soccer does with the money. And like, I don't know what US soccer does with all this money, right? They're paying their players, they're paying coaches, they're doing this, doing that. There is nothing like affordable or like given to coaches that want to advance their, coaching education. Like I get you have to pay for courses. That stuff happens. Get the clubs to pay for it. But like I took a course and I'm actively coaching in the community, working to get these players better. And then it shuts down my learning center subscription. So now I can't like plan my training sessions on that website anymore without paying for it. Like to me, there needs to be a buy-in from US soccer that says, we need better players in this country. Here's the league setup. Here's this, here's that. And by the way, we're going to invest a ton of money to create better coaches to create better players. And there's none of that. Right now, I'm just using the learning center thing as an example, but there's not enough support in that area. So that's the end of that. I
preach.
Yeah, you had a lot of experience in that.
No, I'm just saying.
All right. Is there anything else you want to talk about? Or you want to end it?
No, it's just crazy that you coach so much and you work a 9 to 5.
Sometimes. I'm a busy guy. Coaching picking back up. I mean, all the youth leagues are starting, high school season's starting, so it's gonna be a ton of fun. We got there'll be some US games, I think 2 friendlies in September, right? One window in September, one window in October, maybe. And then then it's full go. So it's gonna get like, I don't know what these next couple weeks or months of On the Half Turn is going to look like, but like once the World Cup starts to come, the lights just shut off. It means it must be time to go. Once the World Cup starts to come, we're at full go. We're putting preview podcasts out there for the groups. We're recapping all of the US soccer stuff. So
the first On the Half Turn World Cup,
dude, I think we got to do. I think the US plays on the second day. On the that makes sense. We need a press pass to get into Qatar. All right, we good to go?
Yeah.
All right, so that's another thing too. I think would be a cool idea if you made it this far. Let us know your thoughts. A lot of times we'll be sitting there watching a soccer game and like we'll just start talking about some random like soccer topic. And I was thinking I might just start recording like our conversations.
You got into a good one last night.
Yeah, well, I might just start recording our conversations and then just like mash them up all together into an episode. It might not have video, but like I feel like that might give you like a more like a raw idea of what we talk about, because that was really what this podcast was supposed to be about. Like we were watching so many games after the COVID lockdown ended, and we're just talking about random things during these games. And with the podcast, it has to be a little bit more scripted. So like I want to make this like a little more like raw, like off the top of your head, and that way like we solve more problems doing that too. like it's me bouncing an idea off of you shooting it down and saying something else is better. I think it might be like kind of fun. So I'm gonna try and do that.
A lot of my ideas aren't shot down. They're usually pretty
No,
good.
your ideas are stupid. All right. Is that it? That's episode 40?
Yep.
All right. Peace.